Hello everyone, this is the first lesson recording for IM1, May 7th, 2021. Just a brain teaser, what is the number on the parking spot that is covered by the car? I see 16, 06, 68, 88, then 98. Do you see a pattern there at all? Can you try to figure that out? And when you have your answer, you can send it in the private chat. Well, what is the number? It is actually 87. How is that so? Well, math is looking for patterns. Okay, do you see any pattern here? Maybe not, but perhaps if you had a different perspective, okay? Again, remember rotation? If I turned it around 180 degrees, what happens here? 86, some number, 88, 89, 90, 91. Now do you see a pattern? I hope so. That's why this is 87. Great. What are the goals for the day? We're going to review geometry symbols and notations and continue working with congruence more abstractly by using diagrams, symbols, and notations. Now, from the last lesson, we took some notes that says two polygons are congruent if there are the transformation steps to show they match. Okay, if you can map this figure to match exactly to this figure, okay, using transformation, that's translation, rotation, and reflection, and it matches up every single part, then we can say they're congruent. And when that happens, we know that all matching angles have the same measure and that all matching sides are the same length. So if you have these two figures, now do they look like they are congruent to you? Or they might, they kind of do, but we don't know for sure. And from our last lesson, we've learned that we can't always trust our eyes because our eyes are not going to be that accurate. We're not going to be able to see a little discrepancy in angles or length or anything like that. However, mathematically, we can define something to be exactly the same, and we use notations to communicate that. So for example, if I have these two little lines, we call those notches, and on the yellow figure, if I have two notches here, this communicates that the same number of notches means these sides have the same measures. So that means the side ON and side YX, they have the same measures. They are same length. That means that this side and this side are congruent, okay? Because we're really, with the line, it's a one dimension, so if they are exactly the same length, okay? And it can't be off by 0.01 millimeters, but exactly the same length, then we know that they are congruent. And how do we mathematically write that? Using mathematical notations, okay? If I just said O is congruent to Y, I don't know whether I'm talking about O as in like point O or O as in I'm talking about this side or that side, or what about O? Okay. However, if you use two letters, O is the starting point and N is the ending point of the line. This is a line, right? In between O and N is the line that is congruent. So we use two letters to indicate a line segment. And we use the starting point letter and the ending point letter and N. So that's going to be ON with a line on the top. Why do we have the line on the top? To indicate that this is a line segment. Okay, it's a portion of the line. It does not go on forever. If it goes on forever, then we would have arrows on both sides, but we do not. So it's just a line segment. That's the line segment ON is congruent to line segment XY. I could have written NO and YX. That doesn't matter. The order does not matter in this case. And do you see the symbol right there? It looks like equal sign with this squiggly thing. Okay? So what is that? That is the congruence symbol. Okay, so that's the congruent symbol to say that line segment ON, the blue segment, is exactly the same or congruent to line segment XY or YX. Okay, so consequently, we can use same number of notches to say that line segment MN and ZY are exactly the same length or they are congruent. Okay, so they have one notches, well, it's two notches matches with two notches. Okay, so if I have three notches here, which is the side that should be corresponding to LO, it's this side. So we would have three notches here to indicate that this side and this side, they are congruent to each other. And finally, I would have to use four notches and four notches to say this side and this side are congruent to each other. Okay. Consequently, when you see one notch here and a four notch here, that also means that this line segment and this line segment is not congruent. They are different lengths. Okay, so that's what it also communicates. Not only that, sometimes if you have the same numbers, that they are congruent, but if they are different numbers, that means that they are different. All right, what about angles? If I wanted to communicate this angle M, angle is the amount of opening. Angle ML is congruent to angle W. That means they have equal measure. Okay, so I say if this was 70 degrees, this is also going to be 70 degrees. We use those the same number of arc. Arc is that little partial circle thing. Arc means that these angles have the same measure. Okay, so this angle here, the opening here, and this angle here, it have the same measure. That's what that same number of arc means. And to communicate that this angle L and angle W have the same measure, meaning they are congruent, we would again use angle symbol, that little symbol here. That means that angle L is congruent to angle W. It looks like a less than symbol, but it is sort of, I don't know how you would put it. It is more flat, right? It's not quite the less than symbol, but sometimes if you do not have the less than symbol, sometimes we would use the less than symbol. But generally, this is what we would use to talk about angle. So that we're talking about angle, would use this angle notation here. Okay, just the way angle is opening and up and down. This looks like an angle, right? It's a space enclosed by two sides. So angle L is congruent to angle W, or we can use three letters to refer to an angle as well. So you have, when you're talking about angles, you can either use one letter or three letters. Sometimes you have to use three letters, but since angle L, the only angle L that you could possibly is this one, so we don't have to use three letters. But to be more precise, we can use three letters. We can say O, angle OLM. When I say angle OLM, okay, start tracing the OLM. So we have OL is one side and LM is the other side. What is the angle that is enclosed by the two sides that we just identified? It's this one. So that means the key thing is the middle letter has to be at the vertex. So this is angle OLM. And how would you call this angle? If I was to use three letters, I could use ZWX, or I could say XWZ. That would both be correct. Okay, so we would use angle OLM is congruent to angle ZWX, means the same thing as that. Okay, now since we said the same number of arc means these angles have the same arc angle measure, we can use two arc notation here and two arc notation here to indicate that this angle measure and this angle measure are exactly the same. They are congruent. And alternatively, you might sometimes see on textbooks and some other sources, you could put an arc notation plus just number of notches, and another arc with the same number of notches here. Okay, so then this angle O matches with angle X. So now we know that angle O is congruent to angle X, and we can do two notches with the arc symbol here, and to say that angle M is congruent to angle Z. So it's again the number of arc or arc with the number of notches. When they match, you know that we're really talking about the same measure or that they are congruent. Okay, so we've just identified that all four sides are equal in length and all four angles are equal in angle, measure as well. So that means it fits the definition. So we can say that figure or polygon L or L, M, and O is congruent to W, Z, Y, X. And that's our congruence statement there. Okay, so now it's your turn. Which symbol says two sides are the same length now? If you have A, B, C, D. Okay, so which of these symbols says that two sides are the same length? Is it A, is it B, or C, or D? Please tell me in private chat. Okay, well, we said that same number of notches means same side length. So it's going to be A. So A is the correct answer. All right, this time, which symbol says two angles are the same measure? So now this time we're talking about angles. Which one says two angles are the same measure? Remember, to indicate that two angles have the same measure, we use the same number of arc. Arc is those little sort of partial circles. Okay, so they have the same number. They have two arc here, two arc here. That tells me these two angles have the same measure. Now this time the notation B angle, BOT, refers to, okay, we have this symbol here. Angle means we're referring to what? Okay, so hopefully you know that that symbol means angle, so you know you're talking about angle. So it's going to be some either red angle or the blue angle, not lines. Okay, if we're talking about lines from B to O to T, those are sides, so we wouldn't use three letters for that. Okay, and if I was to talk about whole triangle, I would have a triangle symbol, not that angle symbol. So if I wanted to try and talk about the whole triangle, I would say triangle BOT. Now, so BOT, so trace your letters. B is here, O is here, T is here. So we have one arm. BO is one of the arm, and OT is the other arm. So which is the angle that is enclosed by those two arms? Okay, so think of your alligator mouth, the top line and the bottom line, and the in between those lines are the angle they are talking about. So it's the blue angle. So its correct answer is C. Okay, and we can sometimes use this symbol instead of angle. Okay, some textbooks will use this, or some textbooks may use this as well instead of this angle symbol. All right, so the notation BO with a line over. Okay, what does that refer to? What does that BO with a line over refer to? Are we talking about the whole triangle, red and blue angles, or line between B and O, or line between B and T? Well, what does this BO refers to? B and O, B is the starting point and O is the ending point. And see the thing at the top? What does that look like? That looks like a line, isn't it? Okay, so that is really talking about line between B and O. Okay, B is the starting point or O is the ending point. Or they could have also written OB with the line on top. So which is B? B is the starting point and